Hi everyone. Today we're talking with Peter Maslik. He is the co-founder and CEO of Investown. Investown is working on bringing real estate investing to everyone. They are based in the Czech Republic and working hard to achieve these goals. So welcome, Peter. How are you doing?
Hi, Ricardo. Thanks for having me.
Peter, so how does this story start for you guys as Investown? So how do you come up with this idea of real estate investing platform as crowdfunding, for example?
Right, it's actually a really, really interesting story. Crowdfunding in itself is nothing that we came up with. It's not a new concept. It's something that has been working in the West, especially in the US, for the past 6, 7, 8 years, give or take. But it's something that here in Europe we lacked a strong player in. And we've looked initially at how we can change the statistics that you can see here in Europe versus US. Around 55% of people in the US invest regularly in the stock market, whereas here in Europe, that statistic's much lower, at around 9%. And these are numbers that don't really contribute well to financial education and to creating more intergenerational wealth, etc. So we took a look at how we can change that and how we can make a difference in this space. And the main area and the main key problem is that people just don't trust investments as much here, especially not in Central and Eastern Europe, like they do in the Western and in the US. So we basically connected the dots and we're like, okay, real estate, really safe, right? Everybody trusts real estate. Everybody knows where it is. You can go see your investment. You can go touch it, basically, feel the bricks. And we also wanted to tackle the problem that investing is a thing that was for the longest time considered just to be for the elite, for the rich. We wanted to make it accessible to everyone. So we've created a platform that combines these two factors where people can invest from as little as 20 euros and where every single investment is basically backed by a property and it's safe.
Got it, got it. So yeah, before going deeper into Investown and real estate, maybe I will bring back to you personally. So what is your background? How do you define yourself, and what makes you go to real estate beforehand? Or is this your first experience in real estate, or you were involved into the industry beforehand? Yeah.
So I've personally been in startups my whole life. I think I spent around 3 months outside of a startup since I was like 17, 18. So this is my fifth startup. I've been in fintech since early 2010s, in 2013, 14, and I've just stuck. I love the area. I love the industry of investing. I really like the way that tech is changing that space right now. So I'm here to stay. I'm really happy there. Investown is my first project when it comes to real estate. I've been focusing on other investing areas, on other markets before, but it's definitely a very, very interesting and exciting area to be in and to explore.
Good. And as your role as COO, how does it look your everyday activities right now? So what are your role as COO? What are the activities that you do daily basis?
My job is basically to manage everything in operations. So Alan, our CEO, can focus on the long-term vision, and he can focus on bringing in more business. So my job is more focused on working really closely with our other team leaders, with marketing, sales, finance, legal, etc., making sure that we hit our KPIs all across the board, making sure all of the processes are set and followed, and that basically everything runs smoothly day to day.
Mhm. Um, how many of you guys are as co-founders? So you mentioned Alan as CEO. Sorry. Is there anyone else as a co-founder in the company?
Yes, there's actually five of us.
Mhm.
There's Philip, who's our CTO, Vitek, who's our CIO, Chief Infrastructure Officer, and there's Dominic, who's a front-end developer.
Got it, got it. So, and then you mentioned your role as a COO and manage KPIs and make sure everything is running smoothly. So, how do you personally try to yourself keep running smoothly as well in physical activities or mental health? So, how do you balance that work?
That's a great question. If I'm to be completely honest, my work-life balance isn't amazing right now. I just really like to focus on work. really like to give it my everything. But I think it's really important to at least balance out some things in your life. So I try to get as much exercise as possible here and there, mainly things that really help you shut off your brain and not think about work at all. And on the other hand, you also have the aspect of mental health, which I don't think is talked enough, especially when it comes to the areas of finance and startup. So when you combine those two and you get fintech startups, you get a group of people that really does not like to talk about mental health and about that it's okay to struggle sometimes, and it's okay to see a psychologist, and and all of these things that we need to do to make sure that we don't burn out or we don't go crazy. So really glad that you opened up that conversation, because I personally think that taking care of your mental health is the only way to, build a sustainable business without burning out, especially if you're working in something as fast paced as a startup is. So for me personally, I try to not let the stress from work get to me as a person. I just try to separate my personal and my work problems as much as possible. I also work with a psychologist on a regular basis. I see it as a sort of a prevention thing. So not somewhere where you go once you have a problem, but somewhere where you go once in a while, not to have that problem, for that not to become a big thing for you. And this is what I recommend to to all of our employees and to my friends when we talk about it.
Got it, got it. Do you have any specific quote or anything that keeps you motivated when you are struggling, or like how do you try? Yeah, you mentioned, of course, visiting a psychology or making exercise and so on, but do you have any reference that you try to always remember?
Not exactly, no. And especially not really a quote or not something like a book or a movie. What really keeps me going when it gets tough is the people around me, my coworkers, my partners, our co-founders. These are people that inspire me on a day-to-day basis. And when it gets really tough, I just need to remember that I'm not doing this just for myself, but I'm doing it for everyone around me as well. So that's, I think, the best kind of motivation.
Okay, good. Now making let's say a segue movement towards Investown and real estate investing. So you mentioned in the intro of Investown that you mentioned that people in the Central East European region don't are not used to investing, right? As or are not trusting too much the platforms and so on. Maybe so. How do you feel right now after few, I think, years already running, or how much time have Investown running at the moment? So and
We're closing in on 2 years almost.
yeah, so almost 2 years running. So how do you feel have changed that perception in your experience?
You know what? I can't say that we've done everything that we wanted in to change the landscape of investing so far, but we've definitely moved the market in the right direction. Um, our traction goes to show that people are ready for the product that we've built. In little less than 2 years that we're online, we've amassed some 70,000 investors, which is amazing. We're very grateful for every single one of them. But it goes to show that there is appetite in between people, even here in Central and Eastern Europe, to invest. They just need the right tools, they just need the right platform and the right education.
Mhm. So, mentioning about that success of 75,000 investors using the platform. So, this is one of your most proud moments till now, or can you mention what are the milestones that you consider the most important for you guys?
I mean, the most important milestone for every startup is raising funding. So we've gone through 3 rounds of funding. Um, we're working with some excellent partners. That's definitely one of our greatest achievements. I don't really like to separate the users or the count of users as like, okay, 50,000 is an achievement, 60,000 is an achievement. Because the way I see it is every single person that trusts us with their money is that's a big deal to us. That's something that's worth celebrating. That's something that's an achievement. When it comes to actual number milestones, earlier this year we've reached 1 billion crowns invested through our platform, which is around 40 million euros. So that was quite a big milestone. We definitely did celebrate that. um, I think those would be definitely among the top shelf.
Mhm. And I assume not everything has been pink color, of course, in the journey. So, what has been some of the challenges or failures that you have faced? If you can disclose some of those, of course, and if we can talk about that, and what have you learned out of that?
Of course. I mean, apart from the fact that, as in every startup, you just make a lot of mistakes because you're trying to figure out something that no one's ever figured out before. It's a part of the process, and it shouldn't be something that's not talked about. Every startup has to go through making mistakes. The biggest advantage of us and of every successful startup is, the speed in which you are able to fail and learn from those failures and just reiterate, optimize, and go for it again. Definitely some of our biggest failures, from the marketing point of view, we try to target the wrong people, we try to target, the wrong media. From business point of view, we had to pivot our business model because of the changes in the regulatory landscape in the European Union. There were a bunch of setbacks in hiring and letting people go. It's iterations that we had to go through to learn and to get to where we're now. And we're by no means done making mistakes.
Good. So, yeah, so it's maybe more lessons coming up there.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait for them.
Then, because you mentioned these 75,000 users, so do you consider that you have reached your product market fit at this stage, or do you still consider you are in that finding? So, or yeah, how do you measure product market fit as Investown? Because of course it's kind of an abstract concept that at the end of the day, well, every company needs to determine and yeah, and figure it out by themselves, right?
I think our product market fit is pretty much confirmed, right?
Mm.
We've estimated Czech Republic to have the capacity of some 140, 150,000 investors, that could be potential clients of Investown. We are basically halfway there. So at a 50% market share, I think the product market fit can't be denied anymore. Now the question is, how do we make that product even better? Right? Because it's not like we want to stagnate and be like, this is our product and this is where we plateau
Mm.
forever. So we're of course working on more initiatives. A big help in product development is our community, our investors themselves. They ask for features, they give us ideas of what they would like to see more of in the product. So we're definitely trying to incorporate that into our thinking and into our product design. But as well as competition. At the end of the day, competition is healthy for the end users because it forces you to get better. So us trying to always stay on top of our competitors and trying to come up with the new sets of puzzles for our amazing product just keeps us going forward.
Mm. Good. How do you keep communication with the investors or users, apart, of course, for the normal informing them about new investment opportunities and so on? So, how does it work, the communication with your product team and customers? Do you have any way of achieving that in an easy way?
I don't think there's anything that deviates from the standard. Obviously, we use lots of emails, newsletter communication, push notifications inside the app. We do have a community platform where people give us feedback. They post comments there. They post questions, and obviously they reach out to us a lot on our own chat support and email tickets.
Mm, good. And how does it work right now on the percentage of users that are Czechs and foreigners? Because of course, and like, yeah, what is the average, or can you describe what is the typical user of Investown? So what is their background, what do they do, or is really spread out all the way?
Right. So, first of all, 95 to 97% of our users are Czech because right now we're only operating in Czech Republic.
Mm.
We are waiting for our European crowdfunding license, which hopefully, fingers crossed, should arrive in the next 2 to 3 months. That will kick off our expansion into the rest of Europe. That's when we can legally start onboarding customers from abroad. So usually customers from abroad right now they are people that live in Czech Republic. They're expats. So it's mostly Czech people. When it comes to a demographic description of our user, we've really tried to build Investown with everyone in mind, and I know that this is not the correct product analysis, and this is not the correct answer when it comes to UI UX design, because you need to know who you're designing the product for. But when we take a look at the range of people that invest with us, they go from fresh 18-year-olds that are trying to put their savings somewhere, and they know that slowly but surely they have to start building their investment habits, through young professionals, 30, 35 to 40 years, who've got their careers going, who've got a steady nice income, got some savings, and they want to put some money away into safer investments, all the way to people who are 60, 70, and they basically are retirees with savings, or with some previous investment experience, who just really like our investment product and want to put in some money. When it comes to what is the majority of people, they are definitely in the around the young professional key demographics, 35 to 40, got a couple of years in their career under the belt, maybe finally got to like the management position, maybe are finally making the good money, and they really realize the need to invest, and want a safer place for their money.
Got it, got it. So how how do you feel that you compare about the traditional investing into the banking solutions versus Investown? So because typically, of course, the banks are offering, let's say, mutual funds or versus real estate investing like yours guys. Like, so how do you feel, whether the pros and cons of your platform compared to the typical mutual fund? Yeah,
Right. I don't know if you've ever tried to invest in a mutual fund through a bank or a banking app,
I
but
have.
that
Yeah.
process is very painful, very lengthy, not at all user friendly. And we wanted to do everything the other way around. We wanted to basically turn that on its head and make a product that is very easy to use, very intuitive. I think our amazing product team has been very successful with this. We have very good feedback when it comes to product. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Investown is the only thing you should invest in, right? I'm not here to give investment advice in the first place. So, everybody does their due diligence. That's how it should work. But mainly, I think Investown is a very good diversification, and should be part of every healthy portfolio. But I'm not by any means saying that this is the only way to invest. I think every investor should take a look at how risky their portfolio is right now, and should assess that compared to what is their personal risk tolerance, and then just go the direction that they choose. When it comes to the philosophy that we adopted when developing Investown, we really tried to look at what is missing from this market, and an investment that would be available from as little as 20 euros, and would be this safe, while still offering really nice profits of 10.5% PA. That product just lacked from the market, so that's what we went for.
Mm. Got it, got it. So now moving a bit out of the investing conversation, but more focusing into, you have several times mentioned your amazing product team. So uh, what does it mean, a product team for you guys? So what is the ideal team that you created to at least release the initial version of the software, and now the subsequent iterations of it? So what is the ideal team that you would recommend for an early stage founder to find
Right.
a partner?
Every tech startup should heavily invest in really good software engineers and really good developers, because that's your product, right? It's software. It's a solution that you're selling, and if that doesn't work, or it doesn't look good, or it doesn't feel good, then you've got nothing of value to offer to people. Your investment thesis can be amazing, but if people hate using the app, if it doesn't work well, then you're not gonna be successful with that. So our team is comprised, of course, of really really talented programmers and developers. We're working with product people when it comes to product management, product owners, of course UI UX designers, and also the business side of the product, to make sure that everything runs smoothly as a business and operations.
Mhm. And what is the your current process of product design and development? So if you can give us the big picture. So how do you keep a roadmap, and how do you try to iterate the product so you get the feedback from customers, and then ideal case responds properly to their needs?
Right now, we're getting to a point where we are much more, when it comes to startups, we are more mature than we were, let's say, a year ago. So we try to make more and more. Ideally, you want to make all of the decisions based on data. That's not always 100% possible, especially not this early on in your startup journey. But we try to move towards more and more decisions being made based on data. We're trying to incorporate as many business metrics into our product development as well as listening to what the users actually want. So we constantly collect, both qualitative and quantitative feedback. We try to turn that into features, into iterations of the product. And then, I would say that our process is quite standard when it comes to the product design. It goes through the user experience design first, user interface, right after that, and then it just goes to development.
Got it. And how do you prioritize your roadmap of activities in products? So do you have meetings, all of you guys together, CEO, COO, and product team plus users, or what? How does it work, that process to decide? Okay, this is the direction we need to go. At least till now, how does that work for you guys?
Sometimes the decisions are much easier to make because, if something is requested by 5,000 users in 2-3 months, then that's probably something that we should take a look at and do. Otherwise, when there is no clear next step in the product development, we try to sit down and take a look at what could have the biggest business impact and where we could innovate, where we could, bring something new to the table and test it out as easily as possible, because we really believe in launching MVPs of everything first. So we try to make an iteration that's quite easy to make, that we can launch immediately, get some feedback on it, and then see if this is something that we want to really hone into perfection. Of course, it involves a lot of meetings of the product team and the business team, just sitting together, taking a look at what customers are saying, taking a look at what our capacity is right now when it comes to the dev team, and just trying to decide for the quickest wins that we can go for.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes I feel like on the context of developing software, you need, of course, to try to split the work in smaller pieces to try to get those wins, because maybe if you just work too much time, then you don't see the wins so fast, right? So it's important for
Absolutely.
motivation. Good. Now, how do you make sure that the investors, board members, and stakeholders are aligned with the product decisions as well? So how does it work for you guys? So is everything aligned towards the KPIs, or how do you feel into that direction, that everyone understand, okay, why we took this product decision and not this one? Or yeah.
I think the most important thing is to be aligned, with a big vision, right? Like, we know where we want to take product. We know where we want to take the company within the next couple of years. And everybody that we work with, whether that's our employees, whether that's our partners, whether that's our investors, they've been onboarded with this vision in mind. So we're very, very much aligned in where the product is going in the next couple of years. When it comes to the small iterations, it's mainly up to the investors, not really up to the stakeholders or investors into the company, or even us as founders, as the team. But it's mainly the users that use our app. They get to decide what should be next in these smaller steps. But if you're asking me about the bigger picture, then it's important that everybody's aligned right from the start, because that's the last thing that you want to do as a startup founder. Believe me, you've got enough problems as it is on a day-to-day basis, right? You don't want to go around and have to convince every one of your investors or every one of your partners that the decision that you just took is the right decision.
Mhm. Got it. Well, you have done this several times, so I assume that you have experienced some of these complications. So how do you feel of your mindset in the current startup compared to the previous one? So do you have any learnings of previous startups you collaborate with or built? So yeah, what are the lessons that you get out of other startups that maybe fail or yeah.
I mean, absolutely. You've got to learn, right? Like, there's no point in doing something and doing it the same way over and over again. That's according to Einstein. I think that's the famous quote, right? As the definition of insanity: doing the same thing and expecting different results. But you learn something new from every startup that you go through, or even from every company. It doesn't have to necessarily be a startup. For me personally, I've went through a long iteration and long journey of trying to come up with an original yet quite convenient management style that would fit both me and the people that I'm managing. Um, Mainly a lot of mistakes when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to decisions that you take that are not necessarily product or hiring based but more like business based. When do we prioritize creating revenue versus where do we prioritize just growing and burning through more money and shortening our runway? It's really hard to just point one or two key areas because as I mentioned before, like you make a lot of mistakes in a startup, and that's okay. That's what you have to go through.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that point. So it's like, what is your takeaway of that, right? So when of prioritizing, what metric to prioritize depending on the stage of the startup. So let's say if you are pre-product market fit, what is your feedback on where to focus there? So you just need to maybe just burn the money to achieve the market fit as fast as possible, or do you think it needs to be some kind of a balance between making sure that you have enough runway to keep alive, but at the same time make the highest effort to find product market fit compared to product market fit? What could be the other focus after that? So maybe we can talk about these two phases of a
Right.
startup.
I don't think I can give you an answer that would be correct for everyone,
Yeah.
for every startup. For me personally, the way I see it, it's your risk tolerance changes as you go through, your first, second, third, etc. startups. Like right now, Investown is my fifth startup, and at this point, you know that your capacity to raise money. You know your capacity of the market fit that you need to achieve to raise money. So I don't mind going a little more aggressively and just trying to achieve that product market fit faster, even if it means shortening the runway. Because I know as soon as I achieve that product market fit, I can raise the next series. I can raise a funding round because I have achieved that product market. Now, if you're a first or second time founder, this can be a little more risky, and I would suggest that you take a little more time and you prolong your runway as long as possible. But it's also important to say that you can't ignore the economic situations, because right now raising money is not easy. Especially not with what's going on in the US with the Silicon Valley banks falling, economic recession looming over us. So I think it's really important to sit down and be aligned with the rest of the founders that you have in your team and agree on a strategy that you're going to go for, and then just stick to your guns. Don't change it midway. Don't decide it, oh, maybe let's try this. Just see it through.
Mhm. Got it. Yeah, so it needs to, yeah, take a tough decision and go through it, and then you see if you
Yeah, of
succeed
course.
or not later on.
You're going to doubt the decision many, many times, whichever decision you make, right? Like you're going to just sit there in the evening in an empty office and be like, should I have done the other thing? But at that point, there's no reason for you to change course, or there's no point in doubting yourself, because you'll only see that retrospectively, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, and you'll be able to see, okay, I made the right decision, or okay, we made a decision that wasn't ideal, but we managed to go through it, and now the next time we face a similar decision, we'll take that into consideration.
Mhm. Great. Thanks for that. So now moving forward towards the Czech Republic and the real estate market. So you are, let's say, one piece of the of the players into this game of investing and so on. So and um, So how do you feel? What is the current status of the real estate development in the Czech Republic? If you can comment on that. So do you feel like there is a lot of real estate projects happening, or or there is still a lack of offers in the market? So what is your feeling into this?
Going back again to the economic situation right now, you can definitely see a little bit of a slowdown in the terms of the new projects popping up and new buildings being built. But that does not by any means that it's stopped altogether. There's definitely still development going on. When it comes to the real estate market in general, I think Czech Republic is positioned really, really well right now. And in the next 10 years, I think this industry will continue booming. Again, I'm not commenting on the prices or on the fact whether the price of houses will go 10% up or down in average in the next year or two, depending on the economic situation. I'm talking more long term, next 10, next 20 years. I see a lot of potential in the market here in the Czech Republic.
Mhm. So, based on the projects that you are funding in Investown, so what are the cities or that you see that are more development happening? Or, yeah, can you talk about that? So, what do you feel are the areas or cities where people is putting more investment and development of the region?
I mean, I think this is a common denominator for every country, but the capital city,
Mm.
Prague, of course, gets most of the investors' attention. It gets most of the project's development because that's where the money is flowing in. But there are other cities like Brno and Ostrava where you definitely see things happening and things growing as well. That's not to say that there are no developments going on in other regions. But for example, when it comes to the interest of investors that we see on our platform, people tend to focus more on the bigger cities and they tend to invest more money into them.
Mm. So, what is the process that a real estate developer company needs to follow in to apply to work with you guys as Investown into the crowdfunding platform? So, can you walk us through a bit on the big picture of that process?
Right. I think maybe I'll just really briefly explain how Investown works
Mm.
as a real estate crowdfunding platform. Basically, what it means is, on one hand, we have investors that are wanting to invest in some properties, wanting to invest in some real estate, and on the other hand, we have real estate developers that need their project funded. And we, as a platform, connect these two, where real estate developers put a project on our platform, and investors can choose how much they want to invest in it, and then they get monthly recurring payments from the real estate developers. And at the end of the fixed term, which is usually within 12 months to 24 months to 36 months, they get back their premium, so meaning the money that they invested initially. It's basically Investown in a nutshell. But to go to your question, real estate developers basically go through a very, very rigorous risk analysis process, because we as Investown, we focus primarily on keeping investors' money safe. Sure, we want to generate returns, we want to make money, but we want to make sure that the money is in a safe place, in a project that is positioned to succeed, that is done by a company that really knows what they're doing and can carry it to a successful end. So we've created a set of rigorous risk analysis processes where we check their business plans, we check their financial health of the company, we check what is the intention, how they're trying to generate money from that project that they're building. And we basically dig down all the way to the management of the company, and we see what previous projects did they do, to make sure that only the best of the best projects get approved on the platform. Once they go through the approval process, then we publish them on the platform, and investors can choose whether they want or not to invest in that specific real estate development. If it gets successfully funded, which as of now, I have to say 100% of the projects that we've approved and put on the platform got successfully funded, which is amazing. So once it gets successfully funded, we take those proceeds and then we send that to the real estate developer for them to start working on their project.
Mm. And do you have any mechanisms to make sure that they are achieving the milestones that they promise into their business plan, or how does it work for you guys? Because I assume it's a lot of work. Imagine if you need to check every project that you have been
Absolutely.
funding.
So first of all, we definitely do work with the real estate developers, throughout the time that they've been funded with us, trying to make sure that they are sticking to the schedule, that they are sticking to the budgets that they showed us in the beginning. Of course, this is more their area than ours. They are way more experienced in this, and this is their business, not ours. So we try to help where we can. We try to connect them with whoever we can when they need a contact, etc. But it's mainly up to them. So far, I have to say, out of 200, a little above 200 projects that we did on our platform, only one has been. It's basically gotten to the point where it's taking a little longer than expected, so they fell behind the schedule. It's still undergoing. It's still on the way. It's looking great, but it's going to take a little longer than expected. All of the other ones are on a great track, which is really good to see.
Good, good. I see that. Yeah, I can, because I've been participating as well in Investown itself, so I can, as an investor, so I can see that, of course, the projects in Prague are a matter of that you basically you need to have funds already into the platform, because if not, you cannot invest, because in few minutes or whatever it just disappears. The project is fully funded. Compare, of course, to other projects of other cities, or maybe based on the experience of the real estate developer and the descriptions that you guys have there. So yeah, how do you feel into that? So how do you improve that? Maybe the companies we are early, mm, the companies that are maybe new or are in an area, how do you try to promote them to bring more value to them as well? So how do you try to close that gap that the time is not so long to raise the funds?
Right. So, I mean, first of all, we don't really fund companies that are like first time builders, because
Mm,
we really want to mitigate that risk for our investors, to make sure that they only invest in like seasoned companies and people with really good track record. But obviously, as you mentioned, there are like less attractive locations. Usually, these can be compensated by putting in a little bit of a higher yield. And we have to make sure that the project is communicated really well, both visually and verbally, that investors have enough information to know that this is a project that has a lot of potential. And then it's really up to them. We don't really try to push any projects in their faces and be like, you should invest in this as well. We really leave it up to them where they want to put their money.
okay. Uh, yeah, I also see that one of your investors is Seed Starter from Czech Spořitelna. So how has been that cooperation with Seed Starter, and maybe have they helped you as well into the process of understanding about how to handle the loans and how to evaluate and do the risk evaluation, since they are part of a bank group? So how is that collaboration with them? And yeah.
Absolutely, it's been invaluable. I mean, Seed Starter has invested in seed round, and it's not just about the fact that they gave us money, which as a startup, that's a great thing to have money, but it's also about their expertise, their connections, and their knowledge that we can use. When we were creating risk analysis processes, we leaned heavily on them. As you mentioned, how to handle loans, how to handle the repayment systems, and we rely heavily on their data, because they have of course massive share of the Czech market. They're the Česká spořitelna is the largest commercial bank in the Czech Republic. So we really are lucky that we're able to use their insights and their market access. They've been a really strong partner when it comes to branding. Since we use their branding on our website, we say that we are a project that is funded by Seed Starter, by Česká spořitelna, which is something that people really like to see. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, people here in Central and Eastern Europe, they're not trusting people. They're very skeptical. They are really wary of scams and so forth. So the branding of Česká spořitelna really helped us, establish trust between us and the customers.
Yeah, me personally, when selecting investment platforms, of course, one of them is of course this partner with a trustworthy trust
Absolutely.
or a
Thanks a lot.
long term partner, right? And or someone who have some track record. And also another way to filter it is about design, as you mentioned. So just watching, if you have a landing page that is not really good design or is not communicating well, maybe it sounds silly, but I don't know if it's a matter of generation, as a millennial or generation said afterward, if they are more focused in design than previous generations, right? Well, there was no websites before, right? So maybe it's about that. I don't know, but yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's the whole package, right? Like you want to work with a service that you feel like you can trust, that you
Mm,
feel that can be your long-term partner. And if if it's the same thing as if you went to a shop, it doesn't matter how good their vegetables and goods are. If they are just thrown there on the ground, it's going to look horrible and you're going to walk away, right? So the presentation also needs to be good as well as the product.
mm. Got it, got it. Yeah. Now maybe not something I was planning to talk here, but it's like, do you have any specific ideas or future plans about personal finances itself, or you plan to stick to, because I feel like some of the, like maybe one way to of course improve the region towards investing, of course, is how to help them, to educate them towards personal finances, what should be their daily, weekly activities, monthly activities towards personal finances. Do you have any ideas into this sector, or you for now continue planning more into improving the product itself on real estate, or you're planning to go into other directions as well in the future? Yeah.
We definitely plan on focusing more on financial education
Mm,
of Czech people, and not just Czech people, but all the other countries that we're planning on expanding to. Us, Europeans, as the Central and Eastern European region specifically, we when you consider all the social political environment and what's been going on here, capitalism is quite new here when you compare us, to Western Europe and to the US. So people have not had the chance to learn as much about it from their parents because basically when most of our parents, I'm a millennial as well, so when most of our parents were growing up, there was no capitalism basically, so they didn't really learn the importance of investing from their parents and them from them parents. So this is something that we would definitely like to take a look at and change. I think for now we're only planning to use Investown for it as like, listen, this is a great starting point for your investment career, for your investment journey. Not saying that you should only stick to Investown and only invest in Investown again, but we make it really easy to enter the investing world with as little as 20 euros. So a great place to start and give it a try, and then sort of from there take it to more general education of why it's important to invest regularly. Why is it important to start building your wealth and compounding your interests from early on, and so forth.
got it, got it. So now moving more on your business experience and advice for future entrepreneurs and so on. So in the Czech Republic, do you have any recommendations of institutions to follow, and to make sure that if you are in a fintech, for example, you should go to these events, or mentors or companies that you recommend to follow? Do you have any mentions of these?
Uh, Definitely, if you're getting into startups, there are a couple of must read medias. Like you should definitely read CheckCrunch every day. You're probably looking at Forbes and medias like this that write about the environment that you're in. I think it's pretty much up to everyone to realize who their ideal mentor is. What do they look like? And, what do they talk like? What is the ideas that they're trying to promote? And then go for that. In general, not just for fintech founders, but if you are in startup, go to as many events as possible, because those connections that you make there with other founders, with investors, they are the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful startup. None of us who are running a startup that's doing well is making it on our own. We all rely heavily on our business partners, on our mentors, and on our investors. So definitely go out, make those connections. Networking sometimes is unpleasant, it feels forced, it feels a bit awkward in the beginning, But once you get into it, you realize that everybody is there for the same reason as you. Everybody just wants to meet really cool people, exchange really interesting ideas, and create friendships and partnerships that can last years and years.
Good. Well, maybe of course, as we were talking about Seed Starter, so maybe Seed Starter, of course, is one place to collaborate with
Absolutely.
in the
I mean,
context.
so is every other investor that we work with. We've been really lucky to work with really good partners. Again, I would definitely recommend Seed Starter as a place to go and get invested by, or a place to partner up with, because we've had amazing experiences with them. But I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the right path for everyone, because it might not be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, it depends, of course, on the industry you're participating on and so on.
Of course.
Yeah. Now, for you as of your personal development and growing professionally as well. So, what are the podcast, books, or other sources that you follow, if you follow anything of these?
Of course. You know what? I wish I had more time to read. So usually my reading is mostly done on Headway and Blinks now, which is, I don't know if you're familiar, but they are the apps that sort of summarize the key points from the
Yeah.
book. So you don't have to go through every single line through all the books, but you just get, the most important things. This allows me to get through 5, 6 books a week, instead of one. Recently, I've been, at the recommendation of my colleague, I've been reading The Hard Thing About the Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, amazing book. There's when it comes to podcasts, there's so many good ones. My favorite one right now is Business Wars, which always tells a story of two competing companies, or two companies that entered the space at the same time and competed for market shares, and there's always interesting stories. When it comes to websites, I love Founders Finders. They usually talk about raising money, talk about pitch decks, how to strategize when you're going into meetings with investors, and so forth. So there's definitely a lot of media to consume. It also depends on the preference. I personally don't really like to consume much video content. I just prefer to stick to audio and text. But I'm sure that on YouTube you'll find high quality channels that talk about startups and business.
Yeah. So, what is your experience with these summary applications, summary books applications? Do you think they have conveyed the entire point of the book in the summary from your perspective, or how do you feel into that?
I know it's a controversial topic, especially amongst book lovers. I understand the fact that I'm not getting every single piece of information that I need from that, but at the same time, for the amount of time that I'm exchanging and I'm putting into it, the information that I'm getting out is really really good.
Mm.
So
Well,
for me personally, really good experience. I would recommend it. I'm not saying that everybody will love it. There might be some people that are interested more into those little stories, around the
mm,
key areas of the book. But for me personally, it's more about getting the information in a quick and easy manner.
yeah, got it. Well, of course, I understand. I'm typically more audiobooks, but yeah, at the moment, I am asking as well personally because right now I listen to audiobooks, but are the full books. So of course, it's long hours compared to actually getting the summary of the book, and maybe it will be easier to get the points and the key values. And then there are maybe even people who actually do both stuff, is that you have the summary, and then if you like the summary, then maybe they go to the big but,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Why not?
but yeah, it's about time, right? Of course. Um, Now talking about the future of Investown, so you mentioned, of course, you are planning a lot of work towards the European expansion. So what would be the first country you're planning to go, if that's possible to talk about?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, the first stop is definitely Slovakia for us.
Mhm.
When it comes to Czech and Slovak startups, we used to be one country before. Languages are very similar, mentality very similar, demographics and economical situation is very similar. So that is kind of like a mandatory expansion that you need to go through, to prove to yourself and to your investors and to your business partners that your system can handle expansion, can handle another currency, because they use euro in Slovakia, of course. So that's the first stop. And then, we are looking at other countries with really strong Erste Group presence, because we really want to capitalize on the fact that we are partnered with such a strong partner. So that would be, Austria, Hungary, Romania, etc.
Mhm. Good, good. And is there any disclose of what are the upcoming or features that you will have in Investown that maybe could be interesting for people who are listening to us and joining as an
Sure.
investor?
Sure, why not? Right now, we're working on launching a really good portfolio overview. Basically, a tab in the application where you can take a look at how your investments are performing, not just one by one, but as a whole. Statistically, what is your average PA? What is the average length of investment? Sort of like, for each investor to be able to take a look at their portfolio as a whole and be like, okay, so this is my profile, this is who I am as an investor, and decide if that's the right way, if they want to stick to their guns and be like, yes, I want to do more of this, or maybe consider adding more alternative, styles of investing as well. So, for example, if you've only invested in projects that are 36 months and longer, maybe you want to take a look at some shorter term projects as well, to diversify your portfolio a little more with us.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. So, thank you very much, Peter, for your time today. So, how can people reach you out if they want to connect more with you, know more about Investown or your work personally?
Thanks very much for having me, Ricardo. If anyone wants to get in touch, I think the easiest thing would be, first of all, check out Investown at investown.cz or investown.com, obviously. But me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can reach me via Investown email as well. So that would be peter@investown.cz.
Okay. So again, thank you very much, Peter, for your time today. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation if I did. And of course, all the success with your new plans with Investown and the future. So hopefully we can keep talking and watching the growth of your company.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you around.
See you.